Ever get sucked into those, like, why I quit videos on YouTube?
Oh, totally.
So relatable, right? Today, we're going deeper, really unpacking why creators, especially daily vloggers, decide to walk away.
It's got to be more complicated than just burnout.
You're telling me we're diving into this conversation between YouTubers Wil Dasovich and Daniel Marsh. They've been around for
Yeah, OG YouTubers for sure.
And they get so honest about the ups and downs of, like, putting yourself out there day after day.
One thing that jumped out at me was how much they're thinking about, like, the whole landscape of online video changing, like TikTok and Instagram Reels, how that's totally shifted things.
It's true. It's like, remember when you'd actually, like, carve out time to watch a 20-minute YouTube video?
I mean, it's all got to be quick, got to grab attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even Wil and Daniel talk about how that impacts them, not just like competition, but how they watch stuff now.
Yeah. That's like a feedback loop. They're stuck in it just like the viewers. What gets me is they don't let themselves off the hook with the whole burnout thing either.
Right.
Daniel especially, he's talking about how his life isn't just vlogging anymore, so it's harder to make it like genuinely part of his content.
That whole thing about his life not being just vlogging, that's huge, right? Like, imagine a chef who puts their whole heart into their restaurant. It's their thing. But then maybe they open a bakery, write a cookbook.
Start a catering business.
Totally. So they're still passionate about food, but it's different. I think it's like that for Wil and Daniel. They're not just YouTubers anymore.
It's like they're figuring out this whole new chapter. And what's wild is they both admit to being, like, scared to upload.
Dude, when Daniel compared it to bungee jumping, so real. Like, that moment before you hit publish is terrifying. Does that go away?
For a lot of creators, it never really does. They're worried about, like, keeping the quality up after a break. Self-doubt creeps in.
And then there's the actual editing. They make it sound intense, like this all-consuming thing.
Especially now, because they're not doing those old-school talking head vlogs anymore.
Oh, yeah. I remember those days.
They've moved on, man. Now it's all about better visuals, storylines, like actually making it good.
So it's more work.
Way more. Yeah. Daniel even said he can't just, like, hold the camera and talk anymore. He needs more.
Wow. So they've really transformed their process. But there's this other part I connected with. It's the social side of it. They both miss those days of, like, vlogging crews.
Yeah, feeding off that energy, right?
Yeah.
Being part of a movement, it's different.
Totally. And now their lives have changed. Their friends aren't all YouTubers. So going solo, it's got to be more isolating.
It's like they lost their support system. People who get the pressure of, like, putting your life out there.
And that leads to what I thought was the most insightful part. The emotional toll it all takes.
It really makes you think, you know, like they're wrestling with this need to make stuff they're actually proud of, not just chasing views.
That's the eternal creative struggle, right? Staying true to yourself versus giving the people what they want.
Yeah. And it sounds like for them, it's a real struggle, a big reason why they're not jumping back into that daily grind.
It makes sense, right? After like a decade of doing this, what they consider good has totally changed.
Oh, for sure. Like, think back to those early vlogs. It was all about being raw and unfiltered, just like a glimpse into their lives.
It was like you were hanging out with them, totally unscripted.
And now they're, like, way more aware of all the behind-the-scenes stuff, the tech, the editing, the storytelling. Their standards are just higher.
So they've leveled up, basically.
Big time.
Yeah.
But that comes with its own baggage, right? The self-doubt, that pressure to live up to your own hype.
Especially because the internet, like, rewards you for staying in your lane. The algorithm loves consistency.
Tell me about it. So it's like, to stay relevant, keep doing what you're doing, but to grow, you got to take risks. How do you even find that balance?
It's tough.
Yeah.
Especially with, like, real life happening at the same time, jobs, relationships, all that.
Right. But what I find so awesome is that even with all that, they're still going.
Yeah.
That's dedication, man.
It's inspiring, for real.
For sure.
Yeah.
And by talking about the hard parts, they're making it okay for the rest of us to not be okay, you know?
So back to that pressure to create, do you think it ever goes away?
That's the dream, isn't it? Like, one day you just chill.
Right. Does it get easier?
It's kind of both. When you've been doing it a while, you build a following, you get better, you trust your gut more.
It's got to feel good.
Totally.
Yeah.
But there's also that part of you, that creative side, that needs a challenge. A little pressure is good, keeps you on your toes.
So it's more like finding the sweet spot, pushing yourself, but taking breaks.
Exactly. And honestly, isn't that like a life lesson for everything?
Truth. You both talked about feeling isolated. Like, Daniel, you were solo for 3 weeks animating, and Will, your friends aren't really doing the YouTube thing anymore. Do you miss it? That energy?
Oh, yeah. They talk about those early days, that constant collaboration that's nostalgic, That sense of belonging is important.
Like their support system is gone. People who get it, who get what it's like to put yourself out there.
And it's interesting. They both say, as their lives have changed, their vlogging has had to, too. It's not just filming. It's choosing what to share.
It's like, what's real life versus online life, right?
Like they're figuring it out as they go, and we get to watch. Which, honestly, a lot of people can probably relate to, even if they're not, like, famous YouTubers.
100%. It's that balance, keeping it real but not oversharing. But for them, it's got to be next level.
Especially thinking back to when they started, right? YouTube was all about, like, raw and real, no filter.
Which was so cool at the time.
Totally. But YouTube itself isn't the same now. It's way more, I don't know, professional.
So where does that leave the OG vloggers? The ones who, like, helped build the platform?
That's the question, isn't it? And watching them figure it out is kind of the point. It's like, what does happen when those raw, authentic voices want to do more?
Yeah, and is there even space anymore for that long-form personal stuff in the age of TikTok,
Things are different now, that's for sure. Everyone's attention span is like 5 seconds.
It's true. We're all addicted to that dopamine hit.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean long form is dead. There's always going to be people who want more, who want those stories, that connection with a creator they feel like they know.
So how do you stand out? If you're not doing those quick hits, how do you keep people watching?
$1 million question. You got to have something nobody else does. Just showing your day, that's not enough anymore.
It's got to be, like, intentional.
Totally. Compelling stories, real insights, something viewers can't get anywhere else.
And I feel like that's where Wil and Daniel have a head start. They've built that trust. Now it's just about, I don't know, delivering on it in new ways.
And it seems like they're down, trying new stuff, pushing boundaries, but still being themselves.
It's a good reminder, Even when you've made it, it's still a process.
100%. And honestly, it's kind of freeing to hear. Like, it's okay to experiment, to not have it all figured out.
Right. And that's what's so great about this whole conversation. It's real,
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like they're showing us what it actually means to be creative with all the messy parts.
On that note, embracing the mess, finding the beauty in it, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Until next time.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for future podcast notification. This is The Podcast, powered by OnCue New Media.